Hi, from my screen to yours, my name is Sammy and it is the end of 2025. So because of that, I thought I would do a fun video just giving special awards to some of the dramas that were notable that I watched this year. All the awards that I'll be giving out, I'll have in chapters down below in case you're just curious for certain things. And this isn't exclusive to dramas that came out this year. I'm just including all the dramas that I watched this year. And without further ado, let's start giving out some awards. First off, for Best Actor, we have the nominees Wu Ge as Mei Chang-soo in Nirvana in Fire, Leo Woo as Ling Bu-yi in Love Like the Galaxy, and lastly, Park Ji-hoon, who plays Yeon Seun in Weak Hero Class 1. If you've seen any of these, I'm sure you'll agree that these were all strong performances, but I would have to give it to Leo Woo. Obviously, the character and the story and everything about the drama is amazing because it's literally my favorite. His acting really elevated the character, the romance, and the story. He has this this specific way that he talks and uses his eyes in the drama that was probably part of why I really loved them together so much. He was so assertive when he had to be, but also tender with moments with her. You just have to watch it. If you haven't watched it by now and you like romance, what are you doing? Next category following, of course, we have to talk about Best Actress. We have Zhang Jingyi as Qiao Jingyu in Reborn, Go Hyun-jung as Chung Yi-shin in Queen Mantis, and lastly Kim Yoo-jung in Dear Ex. I'd have to give it personally to Kim Yoo-jung because if you've seen some of my recent videos where I talked about watching Dear Ex, I always highlight her performance. I don't think she's ever been in a villain role. Correct me if I'm wrong because I haven't watched her projects in a long time. That's just my impression. She was a child actress. Naturally, I think she grew up just taking a lot of lead roles, and which are usually, you know, good people. Here she plays honestly a pretty terrible, low-key evil person, and although in many ways sympathetic, she is truly the villain of the story. She plays it so convincingly. I watched this YouTube video where it's basically because she becomes an actress in the show, not a spoiler, and she does an interview as that actress, but it just uploaded as if it's like a real actress interview. It's just crazy. I have to give it to her. She was so convincing, and I don't know if I want to see her play like a good person anymore. She was so good. Next, we have Best Character. Again, we have Mei Chang-soo from Nirvana in Fire, Zhang Hai from Legend of Shanghai, and then Jin again from Dear Ex. I clearly love all these characters. They're pretty different. At least one of them is compared to the other two. But I think I would have to give this to Mei Chang-soo of Nirvana in Fire. I love a good plotting. Arguably, all three of these characters are plotting in their own ways, but I think watching this specific character's long scheme to carry out his revenge is just very satisfying. He's so intelligent, just pulling all the strings behind the scenes. I love watching that in shows. He definitely made the show. Next, a fun award is Best Couple / Best Romance. I'm saying all of these in just the order that the dramas were released. The first one, we have Ling Bu-yi and Cheng Xiaoshang in Love Like the Galaxy. There were a lot of romances that I watched. It was a bit hard to narrow them down. Xiao Jue and He Yin from Legend of the Female General, and lastly Ji Bo-zai and Ming Yi in Love in the Clouds. I was debating between nominating Legend of the Female General or Qiao Qingyu and Ming Sheng in Reborn, but truthfully, as much as I loved them in Reborn, I don't know why I was really liking them, their interactions in real life, in the promotions and stuff, so it's kind of like confusing me. They're definitely like close with that couple. If you know me, you already know the winner by far has to be Ling Bu-yi and Cheng Xiaoshang in Love Like the Galaxy because it's literally my favorite romance ever, which made it my favorite drama ever. So although I will say Love in the Clouds is so good, I've been seeing so many like TikToks. The TikToks have really been staying on my For You page of this couple and on my Pinterest. Their chemistry is insane. But anyways, back to Love Like the Galaxy, including the points that I mentioned earlier. There's just something I love. This made me realize that I'm really into the he falls first and harder trope. I don't know if that's the exact wording, but yeah, you know what I mean. Because he basically falls in love with her very, very quickly off of barely anything, honestly. And he's just so down bad for the entire drama, and I was so into it. They had so many sweet moments, and also seeing their ups and downs. I don't know, everything about it. You just have to watch it. Although the other couples were really fun to watch as well. Obviously, in Love in the Clouds, there were a lot of spicy scenes that were very satisfying. That drama has a lot more of their romance, I would say, because Love Like the Galaxy has a lot of other stuff going on. It's a lot more of a slow burn, whereas if you're a bit impatient or you want something where they get together quicker, definitely Love in the Clouds. Watch that one because they're flirty from like episode 1, which is great in that sense. Next category is Best Villain. We have the front man from Squid Game season 3. I don't want to spoil who the villain is, but it was kind of hard to pick my top villains necessarily, so I just picked the question mark villain in Mobius, and lastly Ajin in Dear X. You may guess my pick is Ajin from Dear X, again because I just really liked watching her character be evil. She was definitely the most fleshed out of these 3, and I liked how you could both understand where she was coming from, but also recognize that that doesn't excuse her horrible actions. She's just very complex and fun to watch. Next, we have Best Writing, and not that I'm some kind of writing script expert or whatever, but just my opinion, I picked Nirvana and Fire, Love Like the Galaxy, and Mobius. And I picked these because the first pick, Nirvana and Fire, is literally like a classic. The reason it's so good is arguably because of the writing, because it's so much dialogue. It's pretty much all dialogue and scheming, and that could not be done without good writing. And Love Like the Galaxy, I also think is great because I really like a lot of the dialogue, both in the romantic scenes, but also in scenes involving like family drama and stuff. I was not bored watching it, despite it being very long. And lastly, Mobius. I picked this one because I was worried going in because it's sort of time travel-esque or like Groundhog Day style time travel that could be boring. They actually do a lot of reveals, and it's just tight writing because it's only 12 episodes, I believe, and to tell like a mystery that develops while getting to know a lot of the characters and learning new things every episode, I thought that was well done. But in the end, I'd have to give it to Nirvana and Fire for the points that I mentioned earlier. Next one, a bit different, is Best Story. Again, I have to give it to Nirvana and Fire, Legend of Shanghai, and Dear X. And my pick is Legend of Shanghai. I really enjoyed watching this. It was one of the first C-dramas that I watched. I actually think it might be the second one that I ever watched after Love Like the Galaxy. In those 40 episodes, I thought that the progression of events, there was always something going on, and it was never slow or boring, at least in my opinion. I also did really like the romance that was there. I just thought it was really fun. There's a lot of like my whole family was killed and now I'm out for revenge historical stories. Something about this one was both a lot of fun while also being like emotional at times. It was just very charming. Next, we have Best Thriller. Romance and thriller are like my favorite genres. So after talking about romance, I have to talk about thrillers. I'm nominating Mobius, Dear X, and The Price of Confession. I would give this to The Price of Confession, which I just watched very recently because it's pretty new. The reason is because Mobius is great and it has a nice sci-fi element involved, but there are moments that are a bit lighthearted mixed in with the thriller sci-fi element. And then Dear X, you may know, I talked about it recently, the ending fell off the rails, so I don't know, it's just a bit hard unless there was nothing else to pick, you know? That's why I decided to pick The Price of Confession. This was, I believe, 12 episodes, and it maintains the suspense the entire way through. It's a serious thriller and definitely keeps you on edge, not knowing what people's true intentions are and what's really happening. If you're also a thriller fan, then definitely check this one out. Next, we have Most Disappointing Drama. I already know I'm gonna get shit for this in my tier ranking video that I uploaded recently. recently. I swear half the comments are people giving me shit for not liking Weak Hero Class 1, and I don't know. Okay, I feel like I need to give like a disclaimer because obviously this is my opinion and I'm not saying the drama is like objectively bad. I just didn't connect with it. Also, I think the expectations that I had were pretty high because of all the hype. I didn't watch it when it was coming out. I watched it afterwards because I'd heard all the hype about it. The action is good. Like the main lead actor, obviously I mentioned earlier, is good. I think I just didn't understand like why it was so hype. On top of me like really thinking that this one character was annoying, played by Hong Kyung. I like as an actor, like I think he's really attractive, but anyways, I just like really hated his character. So that's why I was disappointed. That's the first nomination. Second is Blood Free. I talked about it briefly before on this channel. It just took like a weird turn. I was pretty interested in the initial premise. It gets like kind of weird and boring. There's that. And then lastly, of course, Squid Game Season 3. I'm gonna pick Squid Game Season 3 because it was such a big thing. I think a lot of people had hopes that it would end well, not necessarily like a happy ending, but have a good sort of conclusion or answer certain questions or whatever. And it really was just very blah. I have to give it to that. Now talking about a few dramas that were released in this year of 2025. The best K-drama releases, we have Queen Mantis, Dear Ex, and The Price of Confession, which are all thrillers because that's what I like. And personally, I think Korean dramas are really good at doing thrillers. For pretty much the same reasons earlier, I would give this to The Price of Confession. Next, of course, we have to follow it up with the best C-drama released this year. I'm gonna nominate Legend of Shanghai, Reborn, and Love in the Clouds. I think Love in the Clouds is just pure great romance, also good fantasy if you're into that, and it looks great. The chemistry is insane. Reborn, I think, is very different. I thought the romance was very sweet while being within a story about a family that has a lot of trauma and issues going on that are very relevant to like traditional Chinese culture and stuff. And all the elements are well done. I can appreciate the storytelling and the realistic nature of that part of the drama, but personally I just don't find that very enjoyable to watch. Like I'm trying to escape the depressing real life things. That's just my opinion. Again, for what I said earlier, I'd have to give this to Legend of Shanghai. Truly, it's one of the most notable and best dramas and shows that I watched this year. And normally I only talk about K-dramas and C-dramas on this channel, but I did watch a lot of shows, especially before I started this channel. So in the earlier part of the year, I do watch like Western shows and anime and whatnot. So I wanted to touch on what my favorite show that is not an Asian drama is. And coincidentally, this is also my favorite show, not only of the year, but also of all time. And that is Severance. There's just something, there's truly some kind of magic in Severance. I think it is a masterpiece. It's so good. I just love it. Suspenseful, it's engaging, it's thrilling, it's also hilarious and weird and random, but emotional and heartfelt and sad, and it just makes you feel everything. If you don't know what Severance is, I would advise don't look it up because you might get spoiled, and truly you need to watch Severance knowing as little as possible, because I think getting sucked into that world and the mystery involved is one of the highlights of the watching experience. I think if you knew a bit more, or if you were spoiled for some reason, that would definitely be a detriment. But just a brief note about what it's about if you didn't know. Basically, in the world of Severance, there's this technology that's been invented where you can have like a chip in your brain. When you go to work, you kind of develop a different self. They call it the innie. That part of you only works. And then when you're off work, then your outie is kind of like turned on in a sense. And so you existing as your outie will never know what you do at work, who you work with, anything about work. And then your innie doesn't know anything about your life outside of work. All they do is work every hour, every minute of their existence. That concept alone, I think, is super interesting, especially if you're a sci-fi fan, which I love sci-fi. That's all you need to know. If that sounds interesting, just watch watch it. It's on Apple TV. Just get the subscription. I swear it's a good binge. If I had to recommend any show in my entire life, that it would be that. Anyways, enough about Severance. I also want to touch on just some dramas that I want to watch in the new year of 2026. First, some dramas that I don't know, but hopefully they'll be coming out next year. They don't have release dates, which means they're all Chinese dramas. That includes Chasing Dreams and Love for You, which are both romances with Zhang Jingyi. I'm just excited to see because I like her and I want to see her romance with hot actors. And then I also want to watch When I Meet the Moon and Love Between Lines, which are two coming romances with Lu Yuxiao, who for the same reason I'm excited to see. And then some older releases that are on my watch list. I don't know if I'll get to them next year. Depends how I feel. Include Under the Skin, which is a Chinese thriller. Time and Him Are Just Right, which is an older Lu Yuxiao romance. Love Me, Love My Voice, The First Frost, both modern Chinese romances. And lastly, Hunter with a Scalpel, which is a K-drama thriller. That concludes the awards that I have to give out for dramas that I watched this year of 2025. Let me know what your nominees would be for some of these awards, or what you would pick instead of what I picked, or if you want to fight me on Week Hero Class 1, feel free. Thank you so much for watching. I would love if you subscribe to my small drama community, and I'll see you next year to watch more dramas.